about to go on a journey, who called his own slaves and entrusted his possessions to them. To one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, and to another 1, each according to his own ability. And he went on his journey. The one who had received the 5 talents immediately went and did business with them, and earned 5 more talents. In the same way, the one who had received the 2 talents earned 1 more. But he who received 1 talent went away and dug a hole in the ground and hid his master's money. Now, after a long time, the master of those slaves came and settled accounts with them. The one who had received the 5 talents came up and brought 5 more talents, saying, Master, you entrusted 5 talents to me. See, I have earned 5 more talents. His master said to him, Well done, good and faithful slave. You are faithful with a few things, and I will put you in charge of many things. Enter the joy of your master. And the one who had received the 2 talents came up and said, Master, you entrusted 2 talents to me. See, I have earned 2 more talents. His master said to him, Well done, good and faithful slave. You are faithful with a few things, and I will put you in charge of many things. Enter the joy of your master. Now the one who had received the 1 talent also came up and said, Master, I knew you to be a hard man, reaping where you did not sow, and gathering where you did not scatter seed. And I was afraid. So I went away and I hid your talent in the ground. See, you still have what is yours. But his master said to him, You worthless, lazy slave, did you not know that I reaped where I did not sow, and gather where I did not scatter seed? Then you ought to have put my money in the bank, and on my arrival I would have received my money back with interest. Therefore, take the talent away from him and give it to the one who has the 10 talents. For to everyone who has, more shall be given, and he will have an abundance. But from the one who does not have, even what he does have shall be taken away. And throw the worthless slave into the outer darkness. In that place there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth.
Well, that sounds kind of harsh on the surface, doesn't it? There's more here than meets the eye. What this really is about, this lesson, is joy in serving the master. Have you ever felt like you've lost the joy in your commitment to Christ? You may have lost the joy just for living under certain circumstances. I can imagine that. So where does that joy come from? It's one of those things that the only way you can keep it is to give it away. Absolutely keep it, you got to give it away. And that's the way this whole thing works. Christ is concerned that we become adventuresome investors of our service to Him. Have you ever thought about that? Look at the example of those servants that were rewarded. So understand that it's not like they made a bet on a horse. It came in and they looked good. No, it wasn't that at all. The way this worked during those times is it was a daily negotiation and business that you did with others every day. And so the master was gone for an unspecified time, and every day those two, the 5-talent person and the 2-talent, were in the marketplace doing everything they could to gain an advantage for their master. So this wasn't, well, I'll stick it in a CD and I'll walk away and it'll all be good. No, not that at all. There was nothing like that. And so, okay, those 2 servants, the 5 and 2-talent one, they worked hard not knowing when the master was going to return, but knowing full well he would. So, whew, that's a lot of work, a lot of concern. But they took some risks. They had to. Risk and return, even today, are closely related. If you want a better return, you're probably going to have to risk a little more. So there's a balance there. So some that I know in the church today, not here, but others would say, well, I would have done the one talent thing. I would have buried it and make sure that when he returned, I didn't lose it in some risky venture. Yeah.
It doesn't say if he'd invested and lost it, what would have happened.
Right, exactly. Exactly. That's so true. And so, okay, there's some things going on here. Uh, part, part of our job today is to look back into the real context of this, and that is provincial landowners often journeyed to Rome to lobby for continued favor, to lobby for some important thing they needed, or to just be present for some, imperial coronation or whatever. Rome was the place that they would travel to quite often. But in their absence, business affairs were entrusted, that's a really important word, entrusted to subordinates. These subordinates were servants or slaves. Uh, so, uh, the, the master full well expected them to be as creative and as aggressive in business as he himself was and had been. So, wow, that's an amazing set of responsibilities that was thrust upon them. I think one of the things I've seen within trying to serve the kingdom, uh, many times you're thrust into a situation that you're not so sure you'll be able to handle, but there you are. There you are, and you're going to do everything you can with the help from the Holy Spirit. Well, that's kind of the way they were. But in this parable, the man on the journey is God. The existing and future disciples of Christ are the servants. Okay? So that's the context of the time and the context of the parable. Uh, at the time that Christ spoke this parable, it seems like he knew the cross lay right ahead of him. But he would at some point come back. And that's exactly that context of that. And he couldn't tell him when, just like the master couldn't tell his servants. Did you ever think about this when you've read that before? Exactly who was who in this? And exactly what were they thinking, both in the parable and what the disciples may have been thinking too. Certainly Christ was thinking that way, or at least very likely. What's the first thing when you heard this parable for the first time that caught your attention? Do you remember? I remember what caught my attention. It's taken me to become an old man to see it differently. The first thing that struck me was, why did the 5 guy get 5? Why did the 1 guy get 1? What's going on? It's sort of like, what does this mean? We shouldn't get too caught up on this. But it may be, based on my experience in managing lots of people, is this, that it doesn't take you too long to know where you put your trust. And who gets what some people would think are plum assignments, others would know, no, it's a risky, dangerous assignment. And you can't put someone who's going to carefully protect himself in that assignment. It's going to take some adventuresome stuff to make it work. And so I think in this talent, it wasn't an accident that the 5 guy got 5, the 2 guy got 2, and the 1 guy got 1. And it turns out in the parable that, yeah, 5 of the 2 guys did great. Maybe the 5 and the 2 guys kind of talked together and said, what are you doing to do better in the investments? And they go, and maybe they collaborated. Who knows? I don't know, and it wasn't stated here. But the 5 guy and the 2 guy, well, they did okay. They did really okay. They doubled their money. How long today in conservative investments would it take you to double your money?
Probably a lifetime.
No. Typically, you're looking at something a little more than 5 years to be able to have double your money that you started with. Now, in some cases, depending on how much you hate being adventuresome, it may take you 10 years to double your money. And I get it, but you doubled it in 10 years. So if you could wait that long, okay. But I'm just trying to get you to see these guys were on it, the 5 and 2 talent guys were on it even back then for quite a long time. Yes?
And it touches me because of the fact that you mentioned the 5 guy and the 2 guy, that us alone, we're not gonna make it to the kingdom. We have to work with our brothers and sisters to make it to the kingdom.
Absolutely. That goes back to that, like iron sharpens iron. That's so important. I think we all in this fellowship family, we all get it because we actually do it. And that's one of the endearing things about this congregation. But yes, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I was gonna say,
No.
and, I guess it was kind of coming to me, it's more than the money part of it, it's the adventure of sharing God with others. And that's the adventure, it's like when you, really put it all out there in ways that
Yeah.
you wouldn't normally, I mean, you're just not cautious, you just throw caution to the wind and you're adventuresome
Yeah.
and sharing the Lord with other people that
Yeah.
wouldn't normally hear it. I know there's a few times in my life where that has happened by mistake. It wasn't intended, but my mouth spoke before I thought. And oh my goodness, the way it all evolved was shocking to go, oh, and I didn't really connect that until you were saying that. I was like, oh,
And the truth
It's
is
more than
he'll put
money.
it in your mouth.
Well, absolutely. Not only that, but again, adventuresome investors. That's the best way I could roll this out. You're investing what you know of the word in others. You may get a return, you may not. Or the return that comes from it, you may not get to see, but it can. So we can't be afraid of something that might happen outside of our eyesight from what you did. I see that over and over and over. So we can't put it in such a small time frame. Who knows what will come? God's already told us that it's my word, and it will return with me with a return. So we have to trust in Him. We just have to be the person who's sowing the seed. And you're so right. You're so very right about that. All right, let's look at this again. Don't focus too much on who got what. I guess it's because I'm a Norman in my genes that fairness is a big deal. It's sort of like, wait a minute, what's going on here? It's not important. Like I said, there may be a real reason why the 5 guy got 5, the 2 guy got 2, and the 1 guy got 1. So, double their money. The 2 servants actually awaited their master probably excitedly. Whoa. I can't wait till he gets back. He's got to see what has happened here. He's going to love it. 5 of the 2 were excited about the master's return. I suspect the one talent guy was thinking, oh boy, at least I didn't lose the money. You know what I mean? But he wasn't looking forward to the master's return. And the others probably were. So we have the gift of abundant life that Christ entrusts to us. Again, that word, entrust. It's a powerful word. And guess what it comes from? The financial arrangement of trusts. The trust. Do you know what a trust is? Have you heard of it? You've heard trust fund, babies, things like that. A trust, in the bigger scheme of finances, there's a grantor. That's the guy that's got money. He gives it to the trustee who carefully invests that money for the benefit of a third party. The trust fund baby. That's the way it works. In this, the grantor and the trustee are the same person, and that's Christ and God. When you in entrust, it comes from that word, trust. Entrust means you put money into the trust.
And back to the important word of entrusting, it reminds me also of our stewardship.
Yes?
The Lord left us to be good stewards of a
That's
whole
right.
host of things.
That's right.
And they're kind of linked.
They are, very much so. Good. That's a great comment, Evelyn. So we have an abundant life. We particularly in the United States have an abundant life. Even the most financially vulnerable amongst us in the United States really rank pretty high on a worldwide scale as far as how they're doing. It's not any excuse for them to be hungry, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that overall, if you look at this on a global scale, we're doing pretty good, pretty good. So we have that abundant life, and daring to live it and share it with others qualifies us to enter in the same joy of our master as the 5 guy and the 2 guy. They were rewarded, and their master was joyful about what they had done. But the Christian life is not just the conservation of spiritual values, which is what the analogy to the 1 talent guy, but rather a confrontation with opportunity. When you said what you did, Deborah Lynn, that's what exactly you said. Well, I just got out there. What you did was confront opportunity. That's huge. Most of us don't like confrontation. Most of us shy away from it. Some of us are drawn to it. But most people don't like it. So yes, it's kind of a approach avoidance there, isn't it? A confrontation with opportunity. Well, that's what it is. You're confronting it. So there's a lot here when we think about it. Any comments on this? Are you seeing a different part of this parable today? Kind of thinking your way through it. As much as many folks I know treasure playing it safe, we have to really avoid together being the 1 talent guy. Now, yes.
Well, the 1 talent guy, his approach kind of lacked tact.
Yes.
He could have easily approached the master when he returned and said, I broke even. You gave me 1, I give you 1, end of story, I'll get back to work. But instead he comes out and say, well, you're a hard man, and you reap where you have not sown, and you've gathered where you haven't scattered seed. That's kind of a
Slap in the face?
Kind of a poor approach.
Yeah, yeah.
That's probably why he only got one talent, because his attitude stunk.
It's so true. Have you guys ever thought about the happy coincidence of the words used in this parable in our English language? Talent. In this context, it was a talent of silver, which was a weight. But the happy coincidence, very applicable in this situation, is the investment of our skill set talents, our
Yes.
talents.
We just had a debate with somebody recently because I've been going, no, this is your talents, your skills, your abilities, the gifts that God gives us. And then whoever we were speaking with said, no, talents is money.
It's
and I
a
was like,
weight.
well, it is, and I mean, yes, it is money,
Exactly.
but it also is the same as the other.
Yes, and it's
I just said
a
that.
happy coincidence only for English speakers.
I always thought it was our talents.
Yeah,
Yes.
no. In this case, talent, it's a measure, it's a weight, a talent.
Yes.
So you could go to the marketplace and have so many talents of silver to purchase this, that, and the other, or you receive talents of silver. So it's really not, it's double entendre for us as English speakers, but it's completely wasted on, someone who speaks Polish. It's sort of like, okay, I'm not really sure what talent means, but, and if you were to go back further and research, what talents meant then it's a weight. It's simply a weight measurement. It would be like a troy ounce of silver or gold, okay? It's just a weight and a measure. But the double entendre should not be wasted on us. Yes, do we need to invest in the church financially? Of course we do. We're asked to. But it goes well beyond that. I've known folks who, if you were measuring their contribution only by what they might slip into the collection plate, you'd be making a huge mistake because they are really invested. Yeah. So when you look at this, there's a lot going on. And there's a lot here that we need to really think about ourselves. Maybe rethink some of these things. So, the whole thing of trust is the last point here, and then we'll ask some questions. But before we get to that, any other comments or questions on this? Yes?
I don't know if I'm previewing what you're already going to say, but with the double meaning of talents, what I'm thinking is maybe also some of this is confidence. In that God is everywhere, that in the universal truths, that God is everywhere, wherever we are, and whatever situation we have. What it opens us up is knowing that God is. And I'm thinking of 2 Timothy, the first chapter, in that last part of the 12th verse. I'm not ashamed because I know whom I have believed and am convinced that he is able to guard what I have entrusted to him for that day. So there is a banker that provides us wherever we are what we need.
Good point. We also have the advantage of prayer, which wasn't socialized in this parable, and that we can pray for guidance and wisdom especially in our own investments not monetary, in our church family here and serving God. We can pray that, change my heart, show me the way, light the path for me to do. The way I look at it, it's more of a secular sense, but you're on an escalator. You can get off and refuse to get on it. But that escalator makes you more and more and more valuable to the kingdom. The more you have your nose in the Word, and the more you actually do the things that we're talking about.
You asked for additional thoughts, and just along the same lines as what Jeannie said. Overall, it's the Lord asked us to do all of these things and have trust in Him. He's
Yes.
going to help us through all of that, and He is the master that goes away, but you have to know, hey, wait, He's right here with me. He's holding my hand, so to speak, and
Right.
you have to have that trust. He's not going to let you fall. He says that umpteen jillion times through the Bible of He's watching us and taking care of us. He'll lift us back up.
Right.
Even when we make a miserable mistake, He'll still rescue us.
Absolutely. And the more we realize this, the more we're going to see where God has stepped in, even in the things we're doing going forward. But if you turn around and look backward, chilling, because you can see exactly what He did. It's sort of like, yeah, He closed that door. I have no idea, but He did why He did it. And it probably was to prevent something really, really bad from happening. So the more we look for and pursue God, the more of God's activity and the things going on around us, we're going to recognize. It's sort of like, wow. So that's that adventuresome part. It was, there are a number of epic journeys that have been taken even in our country, and in many of them, they really didn't know what they were doing. They had a general idea of what they hoped to achieve in the adventure. Lewis and Clark's my favorite. It's sort of like they didn't know, and yet here they go, and probably about a third of the way into the adventure, lost most of what they had. Just not good, but they did it, and they got back. I think all but one person in that whole thing got back. Okay, that's kind of us. And that's a little bit what God is asking from us, that kind of an adventure. Is sort of like, well, I don't necessarily know how to be an evangelist, but I could strike out and try. That adventuresomeness is what God really expects from us. And I know that comes as probably dismay to some and surprise, but it is, yes.
Well, to me, we all have different personalities, and my personality tells me that God's going to return, and I need to have an answer.
Yeah.
So, not that I don't necessarily look at it, He's with me all the time, even though I know He's with me, but I want to be a good, faithful servant.
Yeah, absolutely.
When He does return.
I want to have kind of a good story at the gate. So, we've talked about the word entrust and where it came from and how that worked. Our spirit, so if you were the beneficiary of a trust, you wouldn't own that money. That's not your money at all. It is, in a formal sense, it would belong to the grantor, and it would be doled out. The interest and dividends and everything doled out to the benefactor by the trustee. And so our spiritual wealth that we each have, it's in a trust for us. We're benefiting from that, but it's not our money, and it's not our spiritual wealth either. It belongs to Christ. And as long as we're in Christ, yes, we're heirs to that. That's the funny part. is we go from being a beneficiary to an heir. It's spectacular what the plan really looks like. So both our physical and spiritual wealth really is just the gear that we carry on our adventure. It's what we load up our river boats with and things like that. It's not the adventure itself, it's to equip us for the adventure. The Lord wants us to be ambitious servants, just like the 5 and 2 guy. Ambition to do what God will, uh, and He will give us the vitality and dynamics to our lives. That's what's so interesting, is that we get help along the way. He's going to be with us, and He's going to give us what we need to do His will. It won't always be easy. It won't be like falling off the back of a log, that's for sure. It may cause each and every one of us to suddenly have to do the very thing that we've dreaded doing all our lives. It's funny how God works in each of us, and it's certainly we see it daily in our own lives, I'm sure. So God uses ordinary people to accomplish extraordinary achievements for His kingdom. You can't deny the motivating power that God gives us, or the ambition to do God's work. He wants us to have that. And each of us has an undeniable and irreplaceable calling in God's plan. You know, I don't believe in too many coincidences in God's kingdom. Just about everything that happens, from what I can see, happened for a reason. And that would include the birth of each one of us. It's sort of like if you haven't explored your own self, you haven't explored your own talents, you might ought to do so, because those are what God gave you to go for it. I'm reminded again, I don't know I've shared this with you before, but it's one of those whimsical things I see in Scripture. The book of Nehemiah has taken on rebuilding the walls of Jerusalem with a remnant of returnees after being enslaved for a long, long time. And so he goes out late at night and he's looking at the walls. He does it because there are 2 guys in the area who want to destroy him and prevent him from, they're not Jewish, they're Gentiles. And he's walking along the walls and stumbling around saying, oh man, what am I going to do? How am I going to do this? We've just got a few folks here. How are we going to rebuild? Well, in that rebuilding, which they did, and it was a wall so wide you could drive a chariot over the top of it, you know what I mean, along it, that width, or bigger. And so he eventually succeeded. But the passage in Nehemiah, many chapters to describe it, he started saying, well, this family, the XYZers, whatever their skill set, was going to build this section of the gate. And they all got to it and everything. And pretty soon you hear this, you hear that, it's sort of like, well, there's a lot of people that are sort of beating their swords into plowshares here. They're using a skill set to build this wall that doesn't seem very likely. And that's until you get to the name of a person, I've forgotten his name, and his 7 daughters. He was a goldsmith. And they were too. So how many of you, I'll ask you this, Rick, you do a lot of building and construction. How many times have you been looking at something and saying, well, I could possibly do that. I may need to get some help. And the first thought that shot through your head, I need to find a goldsmith and some daughters. You know, maybe we can hire the goldsmith and his daughters. Of course not. But the point is, we may be the goldsmith's daughters. We may see ourselves, oh, I can never build a wall. No, that's not true. Because each one of us were born to do this specific service that may hove into view. How many of us have done the one talent thing when something hove into view? It's sort of like, oh no, not me. One of my favorite phrases comes from someone that said, somebody had blamed him for it, and this guy was sort of really terrible with English. He said, not me, it must you. You must be confusing me with some other body. That's kind of the one talent thing when we're approached and things like that. So yeah, I remember that phrase, especially the some other body. Really funny. So we need to be on the lookout for that. He uses ordinary people to do amazing things because they have allowed themselves to be used. Simple as that. So, what talents have you guys been entrusted to by your God? And have any of us been entrusted with the same talents?
I think there's several places in the Bible that tells us, that guides us to help us with our talents. In Romans, if I can find it, and it's just like showing kindness and
Oh, fruit of the Spirit, yeah,
it gives us a
absolutely.
list of
Yep.
things that, and helps us along with our talents.
Right, absolutely.
And I'm sure we all have shared talents because we're right here and we have that belief and love and faith
Absolutely.
in our Lord, and so that puts us way above because all of us are together in that.
Right. We're, in that regard, we're well geared.
Right.
We're well equipped to do this.
As far as
Absolutely.
that in the church, it says prophesizing, serve, teach, encourage, giving.
Yeah.
All the talents that it guides us along to, we just have to make the choice of, hey, what am I good at?
Right. You know, the sermon today is going to use an analogy of athletes, but I'll use any unique talent that, when I say unique, very few people have that talent. You may mistake that person comes to it naturally. In some cases, maybe they do. But when you begin looking at pro athletes, one of the things that I have seen and actually seen it, but heard as well is how many times do you think you need to do something before you become really proficient at it? It depends on the complexity of the task. It may be an athletic task. It may be another skill set that mental athletics as far as that goes. But how many times? To become very proficient in some complex tasks. I'm thinking of many of you who already do it, and you do it in your sleep now, but usually 1,000 times before you get really, really good. Now, the really, really good is not professional. You know, you look at professional athletes, it's probably closer to 5,000 times before they're ready to be competing at the highest levels and the highest skill level. So when we say, oh, not me, you need to find some other bodies. That's what Moses said. And yet God said, no, actually, you. I'm sure Moses is doing this. I'm sure Noah. I get the biggest kick out of Noah. I'm sure that when God spoke to Noah, he was looking behind him, sort of like, oh my goodness, it can't be me. So yeah, many times the people that you see that are doing a skill that you either dread or can't do simply have done it more times and are willing to continue to do it more times. So don't rule yourself out of the game. You may find talents that you have that you never dreamed you had. So, and it's good that we're put here with different sets, too, isn't it? Yeah. The analogy of the body. Uh, Many Christians seem to have buried their talents in beautifully carved boxes of religious activity in their religious walk. How many, how many meet the actual needs of those within and without the church? That's something that I've had the privilege of being in the church, particularly the Church of Christ, for all my life. And it's one of the things that I watch carefully in my own walk, and that is be careful that your busyness is really helping either those in the church or those outside the church. That's really important. We can easily get caught up into some of the rituals that we do, which are endearing, but may not be helping anybody but ourselves. Okay, something to be aware of. Any comments on that? I have told you this story before, but I'll tell it again because it's very appropriate. So I was on the board of directors of the Mountain States Children's Home for quite some time. That's out of Longmont. And we had basically throwaway kids that just didn't fit their families, sadly. There wasn't an orphan there. Didn't fit their families, didn't fit society, just did not fit. And some of those, 3 Navajo sisters, and they were a hoot to be around. And they would share some of their pagan beliefs, and we'd convince them that probably not much but a pagan belief, but anyway. But at one point, one of them said, he came to me and asked me, I'm puzzled. And she was very articulate. I'm puzzled. He says, you guys seem to spend a tremendous amount of energy and time doing nothing. You don't smoke, you don't drink, you don't. And she listed all of these, says, look at the time you're spending not doing things. It's sort of like, what is it that you really do? And it was sort of like, wow. Really astute question, a very astute articulation of that. But I had a ready answer, and I said, well, one of the things we do here is we make sure that children have a good place to be in the children's home. And I just looked at her, and she kind of like, oh, oh, okay. So it's a very good question that we need to somehow measure ourselves to. Is sort of like, okay, what do we do? And maybe we should do it with more intentionality. That would be my comment. That's a good question. Anybody want to comment on that before we go to the last one?
When someone says you spend a lot of time doing nothing, tell them practice makes perfect.
Yeah, I don't think that would have fit for her, but yeah, good answer. Well, finally, can you now explain the meaning of for to everyone who has shall more be given, and he shall have an abundance, but from the one who does not have, even what he does have shall be taken away. Does that make more sense to you now? It's the joy of the master. They had the joy of the master. It's the joy of service. And if in the case of the 1 talent guy, he had 1 talent, but the joy of the master wasn't there. He was castigated without a doubt. So we need to think about that too. That's the meaning of that. They had the joy inside of them from doing a job that in fact the master was very satisfied with. That's something that we need to seek ourselves. So that explains that mysterious phrase there. Any other questions or comments on this? This is the end of it, and you guys okay with what we did here together? Yeah, good. Okay. All right. Gotta let me know when it's not okay. I could go off the track at any moment. Any comments left? Okay. We'll pick up a new set of classes next Sunday, and I'll try and get out some kind of preliminary information on that before next Sunday. Yes?
I do have a comment on how this has all been helpful, and especially your sharing of the wheat and the tariffs. I was able to share over the weekend with one of my brothers, and it was
Awesome.
a great blessing to me. Felt the confidence and helped him to be able to, because there are so many people that don't know how to go about. They're afraid of the Bible because when they pick it up, it's just so much information, and they don't know where to start. And that a good study Bible, and I was able to work with him there. And
Awesome.
He just totally enjoyed it. And then later on, my other brother had a punch in the head. So it wasn't all a good weekend.
Well, I think it's a metaphor for life. I appreciate that, Rick.
But I do thank you for that, because it did give me confidence.
Well, and the word you're using is so important, confidence. The word is what gives us confidence. Not only knowledge, but the confidence to use it. So, well done. Cool. Any other comments?
We
All right.
appreciate you.